Welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is, of course, Cameron. Instant match reaction. Everton 0, Manchester United 3 at Goodison Park this afternoon. That didn't go the way we planned it to, did it? A, quite frankly, shocking performance from Everton, in my opinion. Yes, we had opportunities in the game. Yes, the first half, we were the better side, despite going behind early on from what was, what I can only say, an absolutely fantastic goal. I've got no complaints whatsoever about the first goal. Maybe he should have been picked up quicker. Maybe somebody should have been out to him, but you can never, ever, ever guess that a player is going to pull something like that off. It was a truly unbelievable finish. But from that point on, for the rest of the first half, we were the better team. We created the more opportunities. Dominic Calvert-Lewin has a couple of headers that you would, put your house on him scoring any other day. Two open headers in the box, 6 yards away from the goal, and he headers one over the bar and he headers one straight into the goalkeeper's arms. Takore had a shot that, as I said, 9 times out of 10, you put your money on him scoring. Garnet Gay had a shot which he should have done much better with. We had one cleared off the line. We had all of the opportunities in that first half, but it very much felt like it was going to be one of those afternoons. When the half-time whistle was blown and Everton had gone in 1-0 down, having had more of the chances, having been the better side. Manchester United were terrible today, and that's what Manchester United are. Manchester United are not a very good footballing team whatsoever. I put this in the same category as the defeats to Luton, as the defeat to Fulham, as the defeat to Wolves earlier on in the season. Games at Goodison Park against teams that we should be beating, that we've lost, despite the fact we've had better opportunities. Obviously, United ran away with it towards the end of the second half. I thought we were absolutely abysmal in the second half. The first half, we created opportunities and we had chances, and you could say we were the better team. But the second half, we looked deflated. The manager said earlier on in the week that this is not a team that has been affected by the news of the points deduction. This isn't a team that, will act any differently, will play any differently. They're together. They want it even more now that they've had the deduction. But for me today, it seemed like a team that were pretty pissed off and we're pretty down and we're pretty sort of shrugged the shoulders. Oh, well, what's the point? Because, it's not fair anyway. And whilst that might be the case, and that absolutely is the case, and, again, the support for the anti-Premier League, demonstration today was absolutely unbelievable. One thing we can say coming out of Goodison Park is, once again, us Evertonians have proven ourselves to be the absolute best thing about this football club. We showed up today. The team didn't, the manager didn't, but we showed up today, and we showed up in exactly the way we knew we would and exactly the way we knew we could. And there was absolutely no way, shape or form. I've not watched any of it back. I've not seen any of the highlights, but there's absolutely no way, shape or form that Sky Sports or any other broadcaster could have ignored everything that went on, around the stadium today. The anti-Premier League chants when the anthem was played, the cards being held up, the booing, the Premier League corrupt as fuck chants. It was absolutely fantastic, and we as a fan base once again turned up for our football club today and showed what football is all about. Football isn't about spending billions and billions of pounds on players to try and beat the opposition. Football isn't about being part of a corrupt organisation and having no choice but to play in a corrupt league despite the fact you don't want to play in it. Relegation isn't even in my mind now. I don't care about relegation because, quite frankly, I don't want to play in this league. This is the worst league in the world, the most corrupt league in the world. The refereeing performance today told you that. Now, don't get me wrong, the referee wasn't to blame for Everton's performance as a whole, but he gives a dive on Martial and a yellow card, and then he had someone in his ear, probably Richard Masters in his ear, the horrible little clown rat, saying to him, don't forget that we want Everton to lose this game, and he's gone, oh yeah, fucking hell, what silly old me, I forgot, let's go and give that penalty for what was the littlest bit of contact. And again, people can tell me all they like, oh, it's a penalty because there's contact. It never gets given on Everton. Dwight McNeil was assaulted 3 weeks ago, no penalty. Dominic Calvert-Lewin ragged down, no penalty, not enough contact. It's all a load of bollocks. But today, we saw what football was all about. It's not about inept, corrupt referees. It's not about an inept, corrupt league. It's not about billions of pounds being spent. It's not about fancy footballers with fancy boots who are getting paid 300 grand a week. It's about a community. It's about fans turning up in their numbers and supporting their football club and defending their football club and backing their football club to the very end, and not sitting down and not being willing to take a punishment that, quite frankly, is disgusting and unjust. That is what football is about. Football is about community. Football is about going to the match with 40,000 other people, the majority of whom you don't know, you've never met, you've never had a conversation with, but all going for the same thing, all going with the same objective in mind. And yes, the players didn't turn up today. They didn't, and I don't think the manager turned up again. I think the manager made some really, really poor decisions. Why Ashley Young is still starting games of football for Everton, I will never, ever, ever know. The fella is horrendous. He is absolutely horrendous. I've seen some people recently on social media, whilst we've been in a good little bit of form and we've won a few games on the spin, I've seen some people talk about how Ashley Young's been one of our best players this season. I just don't see it. I think he's been horrendous near enough every time he's put the shirt on, and he was horrendous again today. And we just didn't show up. As I said, it's disappointing because it's another home game against a poor side that we should be beating. Manchester United are terrible. They are absolutely terrible, and they were terrible today. Yes, they ran away with it in the second half, and as I said, I think our mentality really started to dwindle in that second half. Once the penalty was given, I think it was curtains from that point on. We may as well have just finished the game from that point on, because that's when I think the players' heads started to drop, and that's when I think the players started to feel like, do you know what, what's the point anymore? You've not given the penalty, you've gone over, you've took 25 minutes to decide whether it is a penalty, which clearly shows that it's not a clear and obvious error, and then you've still given it, and it's been scored, and everybody was just deflated at that point. We were deflated from the first minute, to be fair. When you concede a goal of the season contender like that, the whole atmosphere was deflated, and that was the best thing that could have happened to Manchester United today, was them getting an early goal in that fashion and killing any form of optimism or sort of feeling that we had, at least temporarily. Don't get me wrong, I think I'm not for 1 minute saying that the fans were poor after the Garnacho goal, because I thought we got over it, we picked ourselves up instantly, we began chanting, we began getting behind the boys, but it definitely created a sort of, a little bit of a downward spiraling feeling. It definitely was a puncture. It was like a ball had been volleyed at your bollocks at 50 mile an hour right at the start of the game, and that was always going to be the case because we'd gone a goal down. And as I said, as much as we got back into it, as much as we were the much better team for the rest of the first half, and we had the opportunities, we didn't take them. And how many times have we sat here after a game of football and said, we were the better team today, we had the better chances, but we didn't take our chances and they took theirs. And that was exactly what the difference was today. We didn't take our opportunities, they took theirs. The referee was an absolute shambles again. He definitely had Richard Masters in his ear, 100%. He was a clown, he was a rat, as is Richard Masters, by the way. I don't care if those words are strong, I don't care if you don't agree with those words. I've got no time or respect for any of them. Absolutely any referee or anybody associated with the Premier League, even the people that were walking the fucking banner on at the start of the game, they can get to fuck as well. And yeah, it just so happens to be one of those afternoons, and unfortunately one of those afternoons has come on the day that we absolutely didn't need it to come, on the day that we absolutely didn't want it to come. We wanted it to be perfect today, and I said going into this game in the preview, there's every opportunity that this game doesn't quite end up how we all want it to, or how we all expect it to, or how the world expects it to happen. I think everybody expected Everton to turn up today, make it difficult, battle with them, and maybe come away with a 1-0 win, or Manchester United shy away and back off. But when you can see the goal like that so early on, and it does deflate the atmosphere, even if it's temporarily, it's difficult to come back from that, especially when you've had 4 or 5 big opportunities and you've not taken them. And listen, as I've said before, I despise this league. I despise every referee that referees in it. I despise every team that plays in it. I've got no time for any of them. I despise the Manchester United fans who think it's appropriate to sing poverty chants, the month before Christmas, when people are struggling to feed their children, when people are struggling to buy presents for their children. Manchester United fans think it's appropriate and laughable to sing about poverty and to sing about people in need. That's quite ironic, isn't it? Because whenever anybody sings about disasters, whatever disaster it might be, it's all over the news and it's disgraceful and it's terrible and it's the worst thing ever, and you shouldn't do it. But Manchester United fans and any other fan of a Premier League football club can come to Goodison and start singing anti-poverty chants and feed the Scousers and all that. You're disgusting. Every single member of that Manchester United away crowd that sang that today, you are a vile Tory scum, vile, horrible Tory scum, and you will get what you deserve ultimately. And again, for me, just one of them days. We didn't turn up. The players didn't turn up. The players couldn't rise to the occasion. And ultimately, as I said, one of those afternoons, there's not really much we can do about it. We didn't need that to be today. We wanted today to be much different, but sometimes you have those afternoons where players miss opportunities and the confidence stops and the head stopped. It reminded me of an Everton performance prior to the win at Brentford, and prior to the win at West Ham, and prior to the win at Palace. We were in a really, really good run of form going into this international break. We'd come off the back of some really positive results, as I said: Brentford, West Ham, Palace. We'd beaten Bournemouth at home. We'd demolished Burnley in the cup. We'd performed well against Brighton and should have won. Should have won that game as well. And today very much felt like, I mean, Frankie says Manchester don't vote Tory. Well, why are they chanting that then? Why are they chanting anti-poverty chants? Why are they mocking people that are struggling at this time of year? They're Tory, mate. They're Tory. I don't give a fuck what you say. They're Tory. Tory, Man United. That's why they sing that. But yeah, as I said, the players just didn't turn up today. I don't think the manager turned up. I think some of his decisions were quite frankly baffling. How Ashley Young has stayed on the pitch for as long as he has is beyond me. But yeah, as I was saying, today very much felt like an Everton performance prior to the good run of form that we've been in. It felt like a performance, prior to the Brentford result or the West Ham result. We were in a really, really good bit of form going into this international break. A really, really, really good bit of form. And that 10-point deduction, even though the manager and the players all come out in various different numbers, whether it be Calvert-Lewin, whether it be Pickford, whether it be Jack Harrison, everybody come out and spoke about how, rejuvenised the squad were and how it wasn't going to affect the performance and it wasn't going to affect the mentality and this, that and the other. It just felt today like it did. I'll be honest, it just felt today like, especially once the penalty went in, and for me, as I said, it's never a penalty. If it's the other end, it never gets given, because Bruno Fernandes goes over, cries, and it doesn't get given. But once that was given, as I said, it felt like it was just, it was game over. And it wasn't at that point. We still had half an hour to, if we'd have gone and got a goal at 5 minutes after they'd scored the penalty, then the game was back on and we could have quite comfortably gone and got an equaliser and maybe even pushed to win the game. But it just felt like the moment that penalty went in, that every bit of energy that the players had in them, any energy that the players had in them, any fight, any desire just was drained out of them. It felt like, well, what's the fucking point then? If that's going to get given, then what's the fucking point? We may as well just give up. We may as well just walk away. And ultimately, I think that is incredibly disappointing, because it feels like we've taken, 5 steps back. It felt before the international break that we were in a really, really good bit of form. We'd won a few games on the spin. We were far away from the relegation zone. And now that we're back in the relegation zone, even though it's through a disgraceful decision by a corrupt and quite frankly scum organisation, it feels like the performance has matched the position in the table. When we were, in the bottom 3 at the beginning of the season, we were performing in that way. We were dominating games. We weren't taking our chances. We were losing to teams we should be beating. Then obviously we picked it up. We started to climb in the table. We started performing well. And now that we've been hit with the deduction, today very much felt like another one of those type of performances, even though it shouldn't, because the players should have still been confident going into this game. The players should have still fancied themselves. The players should have still thought, you know what, we can get at these today. These aren't very good. They're not very good away from home. They're not very good generally. It's the worst Manchester United side they've had for years. But we didn't, as I said. The occasion was seemingly too big for those Everton players, and seemingly they couldn't deal with that. And maybe it was just a one-off. Maybe it was just because they had the wind taken out of their sails with the early goal and then the penalty, whatever it might be. But we need to pick ourselves up, and next week we've absolutely got to go to Nottingham Forest and we've got to win. It's as simple as that. I think we missed Onana massively today. I don't think Idrissa Gana Gueye was horrendous on the ball. I don't think Idrissa Gana Gueye's performance was wholly terrible. However, we desperately missed Amadou Onana today. We missed his size, we missed his presence, we missed his ability in the midfield, we missed his physicality, we missed it all today from Amadou. And hopefully, it's nothing too serious, and hopefully he'll be back for next week, because we desperately need them back, because I don't think I think it's quite obvious how much he means to this football club. I think it's obvious how impactful he is when he's on the pitch. Even if you don't always notice him, when he's not there, it's quite evident. And yeah, one of those afternoons. Again, players-wise, I thought Jack Harrison was really, really poor today. I thought Ashley Young was really poor today. I don't think Dwight McNeil was much better. I thought Dom was isolated, but nevertheless poor when the ball, was at him. I thought James Garner was really, really poor today. Yeah, I think everybody struggled. I think everybody struggled under the occasion and under the situation, and hopefully we can put that behind us and move forward, because we need to start winning games of football. And as I said, it's going to be a very different approach from me this season. Last season, the season before, I was coming on here, I was talking about relegation, I was talking about, going down and worrying about going down. I'm not worried about going down anymore. I'm really not. I'm not saying I want Everton to get relegated, but I'll be perfectly honest with every single one of you watching. I couldn't give a fuck. I could not give a fuck, because I don't want to play in the Premier League anymore. It's the worst league in the world. It's the most corrupt organisation in the world. And quite frankly, I don't want to play in this division. I'm not saying I want to, I want to be relegated, but if there was an option for us to go and play in the Championship without being relegated, I'd snatch your hand off for it, because I've got no time or interest for this corrupt disgrace of a league anymore. I really, really, really haven't. And I'm not blaming the league on today's result and performance, because it was our own fault. It was the manager's fault. It was the players' fault. But yeah, I'm not asked about relegation. So when we lose games like this, I'm not coming at it from a point. I'm not even going to look at the Premier League table tonight. I don't care what the Luton result is, what the Burnley result is. I do not care. Because it makes no difference to me. It's not about being relegated or staying up now. I hate this league so much that I don't even care for staying up. Ultimately today, the players weren't able to rise to the occasion. The fans give everything, the passion, the desire, everything that was asked of us, we provided. The players ultimately couldn't do that, and hopefully that's a one-off, and hopefully we can move forward, and hopefully we can get back to what we were 3 weeks ago next week against Forest, because that's what ultimately is desperately needed. So yeah, there you go. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you've enjoyed it, please leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new as well. That would mean a huge amount to me. And yeah, we'll be back with the player rating shortly. So thank you all for watching. See you after.